doing? Good.
So how many of y'all have never been to Photo Night? Oh, wow. Welcome. So my name is Kevin Lyles. Myself and Ray Jones started putting on Photo Night in 2016, right? Almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Really, it was just an idea that we share work and talk about it. And so it's really where the whole thing came from. We just wanted to share work and talk about the inspiration behind it, how we go into the creative process, like how we create images. Not so much about showing the apertures and camera clubs. Nothing wrong with it. We're not camera walk, camera club kind of thing. It's just showing art and talking about it. And so we've been doing this since 2016, we took some time off, of course the pandemic screwed us up, and then we both moved out of the city, things like that. But we've been going strong for a few years, and really excited about this. We got going. So excited to have Sheila Pree Bright for the second time. Really excited about that. So I want to go over a few things, and I'll hand it off to Mary to get started here. I just wanted to thank our sponsors. Aperture Rent donated the lighting and the cameras, lighting and cameras. So we're like eternally grateful for that. Last time, does anybody here last time this year? If you remember, we were like completely dark. You couldn't even see our faces, so this is definitely an upgrade. So we're really grateful for that. We want to thank KEH. They're a sponsor of ours. They have been a long time sponsor of ours. If you don't know about KEH, they're the largest retailer of used camera equipment in the world.
I didn't know that.
I mean, the universe. So that's pretty amazing. So yeah, and they're based here in 1979, which is last year. So really grateful for them. Terminus for giving us the space here. You can rent the space here. They have all kinds of gear that you can rent, most of the voice stuff.
He's telling you to look at your phone.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, he wants you to look at
Oh,
your
yeah,
phone.
don't worry. I got this. Also, actually, thank you. So this is from Aperture Rent. Whether you're a hobbyist or professional, Aperture Rent is here to provide the camera gear you need when you need it. We offer a wide range of equipment from industry staples to the latest releases with the mission to make high-end gear more accessible. So it's a really cool place. They're up on the north side of the city. They have all kinds of gear for rent. Been around a few years. And then we also want to thank ATA for their sponsorship. They're helping with us. And they have their annual photo assisting workshop this Saturday from 1 to 5 here, led by local photographers. It's $20 or free for members. So if you want to get into photo assisting, this is a good way to do it. And that's how I got started in this business. This photo assisting, I learned a lot and do a lot of that. And that's all the housekeeping that I have. I want to hand it over to Ray to get started here. And thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, Kevin. Hey, Sheila.
Hey, Ray.
Hi.
How are you?
So just let us know if we need to increase the volume for you all back there. I know it's weird holding a mic. We're double mic'd. Sheila, I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy to be doing this again. Sheila was a guest here, I think it was, I'm gonna say 2018. I couldn't find the date, but I was trying to remember what we were talking about, what work you were working on then. But I'm pretty sure it was 2018, which would have meant we were at, I think, Citizen Supply in Ponce City Market on the second floor.
I think so, yeah.
I feel like that was right. But anyways, things have changed a lot since then.
Our world has changed a lot.
That's right, yeah.
Is this working?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
If you don't know Sheila, she's pretty soft-spoken, so we gotta turn her mic up a lot. Thank you all for coming out. This is it's really great to do this again. I'm so glad we are back and doing this. When we started to think about relaunching and who we wanted to have, Sheila was at the top of my list, the names that I contributed. Your work is really inspiring in many ways. And I know this is, it's like, I'm sitting here like talking about you next to me, and it can be weird, but as an artist who's also making work and trying to stay inspired and motivated to do these self-driven projects, it's really difficult. And that's what you've done, you know, everything, right? Every work that you've done. I know you probably do some commissions and other things, but that hard work has paid off. I mean, like, you've done so much. And you were telling me before we started, when we had a phone call, that you had some really like exciting sort of developments for you as an artist. Do you want to share what that is and tell us a little bit about it?
The archive?
Yeah. It's a big deal for an artist.
It's the archives, Duke University, Emory University, and Rice University in Texas.
Sheila, just hold up.
Texas
really
have
close.
acquired my archives on certain bodies of work. And me being a living artist now, and they want my archives, I thought that was very important. I've had a lot of people come to me, and I don't look at myself like this, that I'm one of the most important photographers in the 21st century. That's what was told to me. So, you know, you don't want to talk about that like that, but I think the archives are very important, because I don't know if everybody in here are photographers. I did not realize when I first started my career that I'm archiving. I wasn't thinking like that at all. And I started photographing hip hop, and that was in the 90s. And I was very curious at the time. I didn't understand, I wanted to understand the culture. So I would hang out, I graduated and I hung out. I went to Houston, Texas, and I'm self-taught. I'm very shy, believe it or not, like I'm nervous up here right now. So I always ask the question why. So I wanted to know about hip hop. My father was in the service, so we were kind of sheltered a lot. And so when I started photographing the hip hop, I was around the drugs, the coke, the guns and stuff.
So this is mid-90s, early 90s?
This is 95,
Okay.
96, yeah. And I had asked them were the guns real, and they said, yeah. They said, where you come from, you're like a white girl in a white body. So that's how I entered into the culture.
Because of curiosity, right? And this is really common, I think, for photographers. The camera as a gift and a passport to. I was very shy as well, and it's like it's your ticket in to a place where you probably would never go otherwise.
Yeah, it's the curiosity, and I don't know if all photographers think like. I'm always looking at the why. I grew up in Germany as a small child, and I didn't understand the different cultures and why people would look upon us the way that they do. So I think me looking back now, I'm looking at why I do the work I do. I'm always asking the question why and why globally, so people look at each other totally different. And so that's what kind of sparks my drive to photograph. So
let's back up to the archive thing, because that was a really great point you made. I mean, I remember having discussions with, photographers many times, like, we're shooting digital, you weren't then, but we're producing so much imagery, and it's just daily, it's just going on a hard drive somewhere.
That's true.
And you're not, we're just doing this work every day. Most of us aren't thinking about your legacy or body of work or what happens to it, or even keeping it organized, So how did that conversation, how did you get there? Did they approach you? I know that you've exhibited a lot of your work probably at these institutions. I know you've had stuff at Emory before. Is this something you were even pursuing, or did it kind of just happen?
I wasn't thinking about it. I don't know if you guys know the photographer Billy Howard.
Billy Howard, yeah.
Is it Billy? Mm-hmm. Billy. He called me and told me, you need to start looking at your archives.
Really?
He told me that. And then I got a call from, don't know him, out of California, and he told me that I need to start looking at my archives, and that I need to start looking at institutions for them to archive my work. Because, you know, we're living in a world right now where, you know, I'm getting older and older, but you have people that are just dropping from early on to up, and you don't, and some of the family really don't understand how to archive that or what to do with that work. And all of us are creating work right now that you don't even know what is going to speak in the future to future generations.
Yeah. So your early hip hop work, again, you're pretty new, right, to this photography thing. You're figuring it out on your own.
Yeah, one camera, film, and one lens.
And this is all just 35 millimeter
It's
film.
35 millimeter.
And so you produced this series of portraits.
I was actually just shooting their, what do you call it, promotional photos back then. That's all it was. And Rap-A-Lot Records art director saw my work, and they started hiring me, and that's when Scarface, I don't know if y'all guys know Scarface, he broke off from the Ghetto Boys, and that's when I started photographing them, okay? Then an artist friend of mine came and saw my work, and he said, "You shot this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you need to be in a show." I didn't know anything about the art world. I didn't know about galleries or anything. He said, "I'm gonna bring a curator here, and he's gonna look at your work." The curator came. He said, "Did you do this?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he thought I had fashion stuff. You know, we are women, we can't do, you know, certain things. So my first show in the art realm was in Houston, Texas. And I didn't go to art school. What I did was I took shoe boxes and spray painted them all black on the inside and the outside, made small 5x7 prints because I wanted people to really engage with these images. Didn't go to the show. The curator called me. He says, "You got to get down here." And I'm
You didn't
like,
go to your own show?
I wasn't coming. I'm shy. And he says, "Sheila, you got to come because people want to talk to you." When I got there, my heart was beating and the people were at the door. So that was my first experience entering into the art world. I never knew that I would be doing any of this at all.
Did you enjoy that feeling? Did that make you want to keep producing more work and showing your work in that way? Or were you, was it kind of a turnoff and you wanted
It
to sort of
wasn't a
retreat?
turnoff, but I'm a very low-key person, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just how people were coming to me and asking me questions. And there's one image I didn't put up here where it was Class C. We were in the woods. I was photographing him. He had a gun, and I told him to point the gun at me. He said, "You want me to point this gun at you?" I said, "Yes, point the gun at me." Only one last frame in the camera. He pointed that gun at me, and I blurred him out, and all you saw was the bullet hole. And a lot of people asked me, "Did you know if he had a bullet in the gun?" I said, "I didn't ask. I just took the photograph." So that was my way of entering into the art world, and then people told me that I was going to be a star. That's the story of my life. I wasn't expecting all of this.
And by the way, and then there's a series of pictures here.
Oh, yes. All that's shot with 35 millimeter film. And I was shooting.
Is this part of the hip hop series too?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she an artist.
Okay.
And I can't even remember why we were doing that like that. But you know, I just put those up on IG and she said, "Oh my God, that's me."
Really?
And
It's
she
so,
contacted me.
The light is so beautiful, the way it's coming through the doorway, and you're in some kind of empty, there's no lights in this warehouse space that you're in, it looks like. And I really love how you go in close, like you didn't stop.
Right.
Sorry, I'm going the wrong way now, getting ahead. But you
Yeah.
didn't stop there, you went in closer, and I really, really love this moment.
Well, back then I didn't think about it being cinematic, but it's like a cinematic,
yeah, exactly.
very cinematic. So me not knowing a lot about photography and trying to find my way.
So then,
Yeah.
did you then start to look at other photographers that, you know, were well known and sort of learn and figure out what you liked in your own sort of, no?
You know, I didn't do that because I didn't
just kept doing your own thing.
I didn't know the history. I didn't know. I was out there just photographing. But one thing that I did do is I hung around a lot of professional photographers. And they taught me the craft. They taught me the darkroom.
Did you do assisting? Did you do any assisting?
Yes, I did. They told me I wasn't a good assistant. I was more of a
That's right.
I was on a set with, they're older now, I can't think of them. I had to watch the lights, because back then they had a lot of lights shooting on the outside.
Yeah.
They told me I wasn't a good assistant, you know, so I wasn't good at that. They said you need to be photographing, not be an assistant, but I wasn't. But I did, that's where I actually learned the craft from, is there. It wasn't until I moved to Atlanta. My father always told me as a young child that I was going to do something creative, but he didn't know what it was. He kept us in museums. Wherever we went, I was always in museums and looking, and especially in Germany. I could remember those life-size images and really didn't understand it. But when I came to Atlanta, he saw the interest that I had in photography, and so he said, you're gonna go to school. And that's how I got my MFA.
So you went to Georgia State?
I went to Georgia State, and he paid my way. That's when it opened all up for me.
Right.
That's when I start learning about other photographers, how to be conceptual, and just not think, oh, I'm taking a cool photograph, you know, that kind of thing.
There may be some students in the crowd, or maybe some people that have gotten their MFA. What's your take on art school for a photographer?
For me, it was different because it was 7 years before I even went in to get my MFA. So lack of better words, I could say that I was like on the ground learning photography. I know now a lot of students get their undergrad in the arts and go straight to get their MFA.
Right.
I would recommend don't do that. I would recommend, that's just me, you know, to learn the craft, be out there.
Doing assisting, like what Kevin mentioned earlier, the assisting workshop, if you're new to photography, that's like a great way to learn and also get work. So yeah, I think most of us have gone through the assisting route at some point. Just as we're moving along, I just want to introduce this shift in photography. This is your series called Plastic Bodies.
And that was my MFA coming out of grad school.
Okay, so this is your thesis project that you worked on.
That's my thesis project.
And this was acquired by which university?
Emory bought that.
Emory, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about your approach? And this is unique, and I think this series of pictures really, it was big for you, right? It took you in a new direction. Got you some notoriety.
Right. Well, I don't know if it got me notoriety. It's more notoriety now. You know, it's like
later on.
It's like I said, me being self-taught and then coming into grad school, it opened up a different world for me of how to be conceptual instead of just looking at a photograph, okay? And so I started doing a lot of research in school about the black woman's body. And I was trying to understand that because one of my colleagues at school told me when she first saw BET, she thought it was soft porn. So I said, I said, let me find out about how black women feel about their bodies. So what led me into the plastic bodies is I did a body of work called Recontextualizing the Black Female Body. I photographed portraits of women, black women from 18 to 82, told them to come into down in my apartment, and I photographed them and told them wear whatever you want to wear. And I had them talk about their sexuality. So that's how this work actually started. Then I found out about the Hottentot Venus. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was a Kalola woman from West Africa where the Europeans did not understand the black female body. It was more breasts and all of that, bigger. And so they took her to Europe and had her in the museum, like in the zoo, and people would come and look at her. And she was they had a lot of Hottentot Venus, but she was very important because they actually, she died at an early age at 26 years old, and the biologist dissected her. And based on his findings, he said since she had more buttocks, breasts, that's where black women get their hypersexuality from, and it was based on her. And there's a movie out that they did, I think, about 3 years ago called, it's called Sarah Barterman. That's her her European name with that. So that's how it started, and then I started looking at the Barbie doll. And I never played with the Barbie doll, and I was thinking about how the Barbie doll is universal, globally so, and all women of color, most of them I guess, have played with the Barbie doll. So I wanted to merge those two together. I was shooting film on the Mamiya RZ67 and had a micro lens for that. And I wanted to talk about how women of color could not fit the standard idea of beauty when it comes to the Barbie doll. And I know all women don't, but I was specifically looking at that time at black women.
Right.
Yes.
It's amazing. So a lot of your work like this is like a social commentary, right, on culture, on society's sometimes oppressive norms that are sort of forced on young girls, not only girls, but on African Americans especially, right? A lot of your work centers around that. And obviously that comes very natural to you, right? I mean, that's just like what you just
But I
did
want to
without
make it universal though, even though I'm black, I want to talk about the universal commonality among all of us, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Gotcha.
So like for you, if you go into your community, they're not saying that, oh, you're talking about your white identity, okay? So I'm trying to get past that, you know, with this body of work, with all of my work that I do actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how I started Plastic Bodies. And I had my first show, maybe not my first show. I was always winning awards when I was in grad school. I'm telling you, things were always coming at me, okay? I'm just surprised at a lot of stuff. But with this happened to me, this body of work was actually shown in a commercial gallery for my thesis. And I went into the gallery owner in Buckhead, Jason Wirtz. I don't know if you knew him. No. Because my friend Ratcliffe Bailey, I don't know if you guys know Ratcliffe Bailey, he told me to go over there because there was an issue with me not having space to show the work, and I had to show it. So he said, take it over to him and show it. So I went in like a little girl. I said, I want to have my thesis show over here. Ratcliffe Bailey told me to come over. He said, you want to do what? I said, my thesis show. He said, let me look at the work. He said, when do you want the show? When do you want to do this? And that's how that work started, yes.
Was that your first show here in Atlanta?
No, not really. I had a show at Hammond's house, you know, because before this, my mind is always clicking. When I came to Atlanta, in which there's a lot of stuff that I've done, I was curious about the people that preach on the streets back. I came here in '99, I believe. Okay. And I did a body of work on that. I did a body of work on black males standing out the door waiting to get gold teeth and call that gold rush. None of that's on here. You got to go to my website, okay? So my mind, I had a show with that work, you know, and I wasn't even in school at the time for that, get my MFA. So,
that was before.
Yeah, it was before that. So you could say this is kind of the first kind of major one in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I graduated from school, my mind is always, you know, for me, it was always about the work. I have young people come to me and want to talk to me about what they need to do and how they're going to make the money. For me, it's different. I always focus on the work and it comes to me. I'm telling you, it comes to me. That's how it's always happened. So when I graduated, I was looking at, in the art world, how they were talking about suburbia. This is around about 2005, 2006.
Okay.
And what happened with that is, I said, I don't see us represented. And in Atlanta, you have a large community of blacks that live in suburbia. I didn't want to take portraits of them. I wanted to not show them, keep it mystical, like the woman, and you see an image of her in the ring, because I think people would pay more attention to that instead of really looking at the body, and that's why it was, and I called it Suburbia. And that's when I became national with this body of work. Somebody called me and said, you won this award. Somebody submitted your name, okay? I went to New Mexico, and even though I won this award, I actually had to show the work to publishers, curators, consultants, everybody. And I had a headache when I left when they looked at my work, because first of all, we live in the 21st century, right? They couldn't believe that these were black homes. They said I didn't have enough signifiers in this work to show that these were black homes, and why didn't you call it Black Suburbia, African American Suburbia? I was like, oh wow. And that the next 2 days, I had to speak before 300 people, and I said, wow, how am I going to talk about this without people feeling that I'm on the defense about it? I was so nervous, and a friend of mine, I won the award, and she came in second, and she had these little bottles, you know, back then, little bottles of the liquor, and I don't drink. I drank that. And so I got up on stage, and whatever I said, people were saying, this was great, that you made us understand something with that. And so I've had shows with this body of work museum, and all of my work right now is showing. All of my work last year that I've made has been showing in different places around the country and out of the country, yeah.
It must feel a certain way to feel like you have to justify the art you've made, you know? Like someone telling you like that they don't believe you, your story about how you made it, like that they're not black homeowners, that they're not, you know, that you're trying to, yeah, it must have been really, hurtful in a way. And
it's not hurtful. Black folks have a tough skin. We're resilient, okay? We just keep on pushing and keep on pushing. Like right now, it's like trying to erase our culture or tell the narrative different. We just keep on pushing. That's how we do.
what I love about this series is what you said before, where the people are somewhat present, just in pieces of them. And again, it's very cinematic. Sorry, we're going back to especially this one.
Right.
It's so like mysterious,
right.
And you really allow the viewer to make their own story, to interpret it however they want, by giving them just enough information to sort of to fill that. Like you can look at this and you can interpret who probably lives here, the type of person that
right.
might live in this home based on what you see in the photograph, and it's not just the person's face like a portrait, right?
Right.
Love that. And this is the Suburbia work, which was also acquired by one of the universities, right?
Emory brought Plastic Bodies in Suburbia, and this work, 3 images is up right now at Spelman.
Can you use the mic, please?
I'm sorry, the Suburbia work is in a show with Amanda Williams at Spelman College, if you want to go and see it. They purchased work from me 4 or 5 years ago, okay? I'm collected in a lot of museums and stuff, yeah.
Also, you can feel free to ask questions throughout. We will have time at the end, but definitely can be participatory, and you can just shout out something if you want. So this work, Young Americans.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is the only image you included from this.
Oh, I thought I put some more images.
Oh, I think there's 2 actually. Tell us a little bit about this.
After I did Suburbia, my mind is always clicking. I was thinking about young people, and I'm like, wow, that's when the elections were coming up.
Which election?
I think when I started it wasn't, but from 2006 to 2008, when President Obama was running, and I wanted to know what the young people thought about America. And I asked them, I'm always asking questions. I just said, America, do whatever you want to do and write a statement. And what happened with that was Julian Cox, that became the curator of photography at the High Museum. I only had 2 images, and he came to my studio. I didn't know him. He looked at the work and said, I got to help you. I said, okay. So he had me to come and speak at a convention with curators and museum people. Met another curator. That's the story of my life, is always, it wasn't the galleries, it was the curators, okay? She came up to me and said, I like your work. We're gonna be friends, and I'm coming back, it was in the summer, and she said, I'm coming back in January with the board from the Wadsworth Museum. You know, as an artist, you're not paying attention to that. I just continue to do the work. They came back. I talked about my work. I think I had about 5 images by then, 5 or 6 images. And Merelda, I'll never forget her. She was the president of the Aetna Foundation. She said, I want to help you. She said, give me a budget. I'm staying over here to Sunday, and I'm all nervous and stuff. I wanted this camera, because you know I was shooting film, and the Hasselblad just came out, the digital one, the 39 and the 31. I wanted that camera, and it was $30,000. I put that in the budget. We went to dinner on Sunday. I'm giving her to her. She said, no problem. I'll get back with you in 2 weeks. Wow. She called me back and said, Sheila, I can't give you all of this money. I think it was about $60,000. And she says, we're gonna do an artist residency for you, and we have to run it through the Wadsworth Museum. Right. So that's how that started.
Did you ever have a curator or someone, try to assert a little too much control after sort of saying, I want to help you, and they want to help you, but then they also try to interject their opinions or some creative, part of your, decision making in your work? No?
I never have. Yeah. I mean, with Julian, it was a very stressful situation. Like when you're at grad school, they don't talk to you about the business, okay? And I was just thrown out there with the woods and didn't really have nobody to talk to. And when I was dealing with when I was with young Americans, Julian says he wanted to help me, Merelda wanted to help me, and they did like an opening for me to come to Connecticut. And it was very stressful. And the reason why it was stressful for me is because I had a studio, didn't have any people. The director told me I didn't own the camera, and I didn't know what to do. And I was in the studio crying, said, I want to go home, okay? Seriously so. So when it looked like all this glim and glam, you got to deal with a lot of personalities. Mm-hmm. And I had to suck it up. I went to the director and told her what I thought. And she said, no, I'm not like that. I said, yes, you are. I said, one thing that Julian Cox told me, now it's on me. He at the time didn't tell me he was going to give me a solo show at the High Museum. But I had a lot of pressure on me to produce this work. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just an artist and just photographing, okay? And so it's a lot, but I'm going to not tell you about a lot. But at the end, Julian, I'm going to answer your question with Julian. Julian was the first person I really dealt with as a curator. He was very open, okay? When I brought the work to him, he said, you're going to pick out the images, but I have to take it to the they had to put it, you think you have freedom of speech? To
the board.
Yeah, to the board. They get approval. So he came back to me and he said, Sheila, there's 3 images they don't want in the show. And I said, well, Julian, can you go back? He went back. They decided to do 2 of them, and he said, I tell you what, we're going to put all of them in the catalog. And printed some up, so when it traveled, that work was in there. So I've
A little
never...
bit of a compromise.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a compromise.
yeah.
So I never had any problems with any curators. Now, I'm going to tell you this, Deb Willis, I don't know if you guys know Deb Willis, she is the who's who of photography. I met her in the 90s when I was in Texas, and she wanted to know who the Black photographers were, and she's done that up until now. She's got book 9, like a lot of books, but she is very important in my life too. She's been my mentor, okay? She's a historian, curator, and stuff, yeah.
Amazing.
So it's the curators, everybody, for me.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But you've also done some editorial work, right?
Oh,
for
yeah, I've had
magazines,
people call.
assignment. And that came later on, as you started to do more, or did you at some point decide, like I want to get some more commissioned like assignment work?
No, because everybody always asks me how to do the grant. I've never really applied for grants. Okay. When I was photographing Black Lives Matter, I don't know if I have that's some of the images. That's in Atlanta. I tend to focus. I'm photographing protests, but I'm trying to bring a different narrative to it, not a black male on top of the car and the car is burning, because those are the images that we see a lot.
On the news, right, yeah. You're not covering it as an event.
Yes, for the news. So I was on the ground for 7 years. I don't know how I did that. I was in Ferguson.
So starting in 2013, or?
Trayvon started in 2013, but I think I started in 2015.
In Ferguson.
And what I was curious is that question I had in my head was, it's starting all over again from the 60s. And so I went to the elders that were young at that time, that was in the civil rights movement, like Lonnie King that did the sit-ins here. And I started taking portraits of them. And that's when I started going to the ground.
Okay.
And then another director from Atlanta came here and saw the work and said, I gotta help you, and gave me money, okay? And that's how all that started. And I never had any problems with curators, because I think I don't know, I've never had a problem. Julian Cox, to this day, he's the director of one of the museums in Canada, and I stay in contact with all of them, all of them.
And so.
Oh, the editorial work, let me tell you that, because go back to the landscape. All since this time, I've been photographing people, okay? I'm always curious about people. But end of 2017, when, won't mention his name, ran and he won, I got a call from the photo editor from Washington Post. Did not know him. He says, you don't know me, I like your work. We're commissioning photographers to go out and shoot. And I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? He said, racism. I said, I'm tired. I said, I cannot shoot any more protest images. Yeah. And so I told him that I was going to go to Stone Mountain and talk about that through landscapes.
Gotcha. So he said, we want you to do this, but you said, no thanks, how about this better idea?
No, I told him I was going to shoot. I told him that I was going to shoot Stone Mountain, and I'm not going to have people. He said, you can't do that. I said, yes, I can. And so,
said, watch this. Yeah.
So that's how this work started. It was through editorial, and they actually, when they saw the work, they was like, oh my God.
And they published it as part of the
they published it in a
I mean, it is highly
program.
like interpretive and conceptual. It's not like,
right.
Yeah, I could see, sorry.
And that's my father's Bible.
Amazing.
I started this in 2017, was it? Yeah, 17, because that's when it happened. And I'm gonna get to the point of that. But when COVID happened in 2019, it shut us all down, right? And so I get the call from the High Museum, said, Sheila, we want you. What's the commission that they give? Oh, I can't. Well, I got this commission from the High Museum. They wanted me to continue this work.
Oh, cool.
And I've done this work for 2 years, and I learned a lot because I do a lot of research. I learned a lot more about the Klan, that instead of what we see on the media, because they feed us this information. And that Bible is my father's Bible. And my father and mother are no longer living, so I couldn't ask them questions, and never had the presence of mind when they were living to ask them about the civil rights movement. And they grew up in the Jim Crow era in a little town called Waycross, Georgia, which I didn't grow up there, they did. And so that's my father's Bible. And when I was doing a lot of research on the Klan, that chapter 12 is when the second coming of the Klan that went to Stone Mountain, that's the chapter. And let me tell you how that happened. It was windy that day. I laid the Bible down, and I was getting ready to take the photograph, and it went over like that to that chapter, and that was my last photograph because I thought my father was speaking to me.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you can create a photograph or some kind of piece of art that is like highly personal to you. The stuff we make is not always like that, but when you can, it's really special.
Yeah, I was trying to understand, and I wanted to understand it and how to move forward.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about, how to move forward.
And talk about a big a challenge, literally this huge thing, Stone Mountain, and it's been talked
huge.
about and debated over for many decades, and so it's a pretty massive undertaking to try to go after as an artist, to try to interpret it through still photographs.
And I didn't really understand how to shoot it because landscapes, I like shooting people. But what I did do is I took Polaroids and start photographing with Polaroids. And you know how sometimes they come out overexposed, underexposed, and with all that. So it made me think about, with that process, it made me think about how to photograph. That's why I made them dark, beautiful, and engaging for you to come in to see what this is all about, and then I talk to you about it. I was reading at the time by the W.E.B. Du Bois. Essay was Invisible Empire. That's the name of the this body of work. So his essay allowed me, that's the name of the body of work, because he says that Georgia, I'm paraphrasing, Georgia is beautiful, but up on its beauty is something strange about Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this image. It's so.
And we had the show at the High Museum. That was my second show at the High Museum, but it was a group show.
This work was at the High?
Yeah, it was at the High, and they purchased 10 of these images along with my Polaroids. Yeah.
So I was noticing the beginning with Invisible Empire, and then the next subsequent like 2 or 3 projects are all very kind of like land. The land is a huge, a really big theme in these bodies of work, like this one about urban farming, about farming and how we use the land. Was that like a noticeable shift or an intentional shift where you started to look at the way people are interacting with the land?
Since I started Invisible Empire, I was looking, I'm always thinking globally about the land, how everybody is fighting over the land.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about farming and about how do we move in the future, okay? And I believe that since COVID happened and I connected, for me, more to the land, I felt that I need to carry this on, and that body of work is called Land of Blood and Dirt.
Okay.
That's another. Well, that was a grant that somebody wanted me to apply for, and I got it. I wasn't the first. You know how they have first, second, and third? And so I started looking at the land and black farmers and urban farms, because you know in the urban communities food is like a desert. And so I found this father and son in Ellenwood, Georgia, which is Atlanta Harvest, which they're there now, and it's amazing because they're being they service everybody. You know, you can go to it because that's what we're going to need in the future is learning how they teach you how to grow, but they grow their own food for you to come and go, for you to go there. So how I shoot it is not kind of typical. It's like it's like a pathway of you moving into the land. And this was in a show in California last year, and they made a big wall piece of that.
How many of these were in that show?
Well, they made a big wall piece about as big as this, and 4 images placed in that, and they said it was like a portal of people going into another realm.
Beautiful.
And they came up with that. I didn't come up with that. Yeah.
It wasn't in the artist statement.
And see, that's what I was telling you. I always focus on work. It came from Invisible Empire, and I did another body. Oh, I've done a lot of stuff. Yeah. So that's it. I've kind of lost my train of thought.
Well, here's a little segue. I don't usually ask camera questions, but you brought up several cameras that you've used in the past. So my question is, what is your favorite camera to use, and why is it a Leica?
I don't have a favorite camera, actually. I'm an
You're
ambassador.
a Leica ambassador.
I'm an Leica ambassador, yes, but I do like Leica cameras.
Okay, what is it like to use a Leica R, an SLR Leica, which just seems like the most bizarre thing to me. I've never even held one.
You never have? Oh, wow.
Not the R, it's so weird. If it's not a rangefinder Leica, it's just weird to me. I just
I shoot with
wrap my head around
I
it.
shoot with the M11.
Okay.
Okay,
Is that your
that's
favorite?
a rangefinder. I actually like that's my favorite.
Okay.
The SL is cool, but I just purchased another SL because of the video that just came out. Okay.
And that's the more SLR digital one they have?
Yeah, that's the digital one. I like the color retention of the Leica camera. I like the simpleness. You know how like in Fuji and all the other cameras, they have all that stuff in there that we probably never use, okay? And Leica is so simple. It is so simple. And that's what I like about Leica.
Do you have the MP, the black and white one?
Yes, I have that one too, yeah.
Can I borrow it?
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that one.
Yeah. And that's the father and son.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that series.
And
It's
this work is actually, I got a call this year, and you heard of Photo Focus?
Photo Focus?
Any photographer,
Right?
yeah, Photo Focus in Cincinnati, Ohio. They just built a big lens space, you know they call it lens space right now, photography museum. And they're doing their opening this year, and I think it's in October. And they called me because they're going to do an opening, and it's called The Tent. And they're using one of my images for that. I never know where my work is going to go. I just do the work, that's all.
Do you have are you represented by someone or an agency, or do you have someone that helps?
You know,
Because you keep saying you don't know where your stuff, who's entering you in these mysterious grants?
well, I have an assistant. They're calling my assistant on the thing, and that's what they're doing. But for years, I've never had a gallery, okay? I think galleries don't know what to do with me, so I didn't want to sit in a corner and cry and say a gallery's not representing me. So I branded myself. It wasn't up until recently that Jackson Fine Art Gallery here in Atlanta wanted to represent me.
Awesome.
But still, I'm the force behind pushing everything, because you can't, you know Alex Saab?
Of course.
When I won the award for Suburbia, he called me.
Wow.
And he told me, you know, he was with a major gallery. He says, Sheila, just because you won this, you're still going to have to beat the streets, okay? Because think about the galleries. It's like a record company. They have all the artists. And whoever's going to make the money for them the most, that's who they're going to enter.
Of course.
So you'll be sitting on a shelf, wonder why they're not doing anything for you. And so he
Yeah.
told me, you still have to beat the streets.
Good advice.
That's what he told me. That was good advice for
Nice
me.
from Alex South. Pretty cool. So we got a couple images, a few images left. And this is at Emory? No? Yeah?
Yeah, I was commissioned, you heard of Amplify?
Yeah.
They commissioned me to photograph this past election in Atlanta. And I was on the MAGA side and the Democrat side.
Do a little bit of both?
Yeah, I had to photograph that. They wanted me to capture, what is it? You know, voting, what is it called?
I don't know.
Voter suppression.
Okay.
I was like, how in the world can you photograph that? It's so abstract, and it drove me crazy, okay? And so I was out there doing that, and then I received a call from Emory. They said, we want you to do an installation at our library. I was like, I can't do that. They said, yes, you can.
Of new work or of like something you'd already photographed before?
Whatever, like a
Anything.
curator, whatever I wanted to do.
That's
and
pretty incredible.
they said, yeah. And I said, I can't do that. They said, yes, you can. I said, okay. So while I was out photographing the election, because you know, that's a lot. It's a lot. I came up with breathe. We all need to breathe. So I had a lot of, I didn't talk about this, but I've been shooting the landscape because I had some commissions with the Smithsonian Magazine and the museum. And I've been along the coastal islands. So what I did was I used those images that I photographed and I called this breathe.
This is how you decompressed after after the election stuff you were photographing.
Yeah. So if you go back to that first picture, I photographed, I was along the coast and I was using Polaroids and I double exposure on the Polaroids.
Which Polaroids were you using?
I got a bunch
Big
of-
square ones or like a smaller
It's
one?
a big square one.
Okay.
That's the big square one. So what I did was blow those up and they backlit it. So when you come into the entrance, and I don't have it, and on the top there was an image. You see the top?
Yeah.
And what they did, it was
cool.
a still image, they made
It's
it
a
move.
projection or
And they made it move. So as you walk in, you can go in.
Is there sound and stuff as well?
There's sound. My husband is in the music, and he did, I said, you need to, we never collaborated together. You know, that's kind of hard, right? Yeah, it's kind of hard. I said, you got to give me some music, soft music, so everybody can decompress. And he got the music for me. He said, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, he was sitting at the keyboard. He said, I never can play this again. I should play, I don't have it, we could play
That'd
it.
be so cool.
Yeah, and he called
Gotta
it
go to Emory.
he called it the music of the gods. And so you could move on. And
cool.
the landscapes are from Behold the Land, there's another body of work, the
Yes.
land. And those are the two images. And you know, when I photograph landscapes, I photograph them like portraits. I'm always shooting with a 90mm lens.
Even when you're doing landscapes?
Yeah, and some of it is wide, but most of it is 90. And I photographed her. This was right coming after COVID. So I've had a combination of landscapes, and she is called Behold the Land. I had a magazine out of California wanted me to do a body of work, and they loved my landscape. And it was talking about how do we move in the future. And so that's why, and I photographed her because, you know, I like people, and I used her as the symbolism of the land.
That's beautiful. So this is all the same space, right?
Yeah,
At
the
Emory.
same
So
space. You
walk
would have to
through-
visit, yeah.
And this is upstairs, if I'm not mistaken.
In the
library?
Yeah, the Rose Library.
Yeah.
And that's a very big space. I've
It
never
is.
done
It's so
this
great to see them
before.
using it like this. This is amazing.
And as you enter, you hear the music, and on the top, you hear the ocean and stuff.
And these are all your landscapes?
Those are all my
Yeah, that's
landscapes, and
amazing.
those little, you see the little block boxes
On the right,
there? I was messing around with AI. I know that's a bad word for photographers, okay? And the reason why I say that, that's something that I don't like, but I think we're going to have to embrace it to try to understand it and how to move forward with it. You know, it's just like back in the day when, was it painting, and then photography came and it was like, oh my God, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or the invention, or not the invention, but when Photoshop, I mean, that was a huge uproar.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean people can, anyone can clone out the sun from their photograph? Like, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of scary,
No,
yeah.
probably.
But I think it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what I did
That's
was,
awesome.
I put those images on Polaroids. I'm playing around a lot. And some of it is real, and it's like the Barbie doll. Some of them are real and some of them are not. And I just deposed them together on top of the wall there.
That's so cool. Do you like working in this kind of environment where you really have to think about, I mean, because it's so much more than just the picture you take, it's how it's going to be displayed and or projected, or all these other, there's all these other factors. This one's on a curved wall. I mean, that's like,
right.
There's a lot more to thinking about the end product and how it's going to be.
Because there was a lot of things that the, I can't think of his name, he told me I couldn't do. I said, yes, you can. And so I guess that's the story, like, yes, you can.
I love that.
Yes, you can. So
that's your final image.
That's
so we
the
can,
story of
we
me.
can end there. I have so many other questions. I'll cut myself off. I'll allow anyone who is here that wants to chime in or have a question for Sheila, please.
How long is the work going to be up at Emory?
Oh, it went down the end of, it was up in the fall of last year, and it came down the end of the year, and they wanted it up, but they had other, you know, things that they had planned to do. Even the president of Emory came and talked to me. He said, we all needed this, yeah.
Is there, just to follow up, is there something in Atlanta coming up that you're going to be showing? Anywhere, anything
Not in Atlanta.
new, special?
I'm in a group show called Free as They Want to Be, Artists Committed to Memory at Harvard University at the Cooper Gallery.
Awesome.
And if you're there, it's open into, I think, June of this year.
Okay.
I don't know what's the date. And then Hooper, what is it? It's the Smithsonian Magazine did their triennial called Making Home. And I'm not in the show, but they commissioned me out to do a photo essay, and that's up into August of 2025. And then Photo Focus is
In Cincinnati, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and ICP want to commission me out to do a piece about the State of the Union. You guys, they commissioning 12 photographers, and
What do you know what you're going to do for that? I mean,
I'm thinking about going to coastal islands, the Gullah Geechee, because they're talking about who's shaping America, who's being left out, and I want to maybe talk about where it all started when it came to African Americans and show that, yeah. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't know yet.
awesome. Awesome, other hands. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what it gives a lot of your photos staying power for me is that I can feel some emotional thing that you're feeling in each one. And I was wondering if you could go through like maybe a couple that really stayed with you and then say what you're feeling as you're photographing it, or what it makes you feel as you're looking at it.
I think with me, when it comes to me, I'm very passionate, okay? It's gonna be hard for me to talk about the why and the motion, but when I go out to photograph, I think I want people to feel. And that's why it takes me sometimes to figure out how I'm going to shoot it, like landscapes. That's hard. Landscapes are hard, you know that, you know? And so for me, I want you not only to see it, but I want you to hear it. I want you to hear it and feel it. And I think that comes within me. It's like with Stone Mountain, You could go back to Stone Mountain. It's like the image of my father with the Bible. I became very emotional with it. And a lot of the images that I shot at Stone Mountain, I live right by that mountain. It had to be when it was cloudy and raining because I wanted that moodiness to it, okay? And that's why I shot it in black and white. And I shot it with the M11, okay? But I'm going back to, I want to shoot film because when I started pulling out my hip-hop images, digital cannot touch film. I don't care how many megapixels you have. It doesn't have that feel to it. It's just like those first images you showed of the cinematic thing.
the woman
It
smoking,
doesn't
yeah.
have, I can't explain it, but it doesn't have that feel to it, you know? And everything with digital is so sharp. Trying to get, and that's one thing that I like about Leica. It's sharp, but it's not sharp. Some of these cameras are so sharp. I do not like it at
Sonny,
all.
we're looking at you.
Yeah, and so, yeah, so I want you to feel the images. Even if you saw a lot of the images of my protest images, people say it's something always different about your protest images because when I was shooting, and I'm not from the community, even though I'm black, I got cussed out a lot, told me to get the hell out of here and stuff. And I never forget when a woman told me, I said, I'm from Atlanta, from home of the Civil Rights Movement, and I'm here to tell our stories. And a woman came up to me and she says, I'm gonna tell you the truth, I just got out of jail, I don't have no money. I said, ma'am, I don't have any money, but I could give you a hug. I feel the people. I would be within the people. I don't know, and then with the people, that's what I do because I want you to feel it. But at the landscapes, I try to imagine myself back then and the people. And even though I did Stone Mountain, I was trying to understand why it's like that to this day. I understand why it's like that to this day. It doesn't make it right. But as a child, as you grow up at 4 or 5 years old, that's when you start developing yourself. And then if you're taught those ways, it's hard for you to get out of those ways, you know, and that's the problem that we're having right now, you know.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe that. Any other questions?
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Tough one to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blinded.
So when you do your like non-commissioned things that are not for a purpose, you know, like for any, you know, identified purpose already, how do you like relax and do your like the photography work you do? Like what is the thing that makes you happy about it?
You know, that's a good question because I
Great
know
question.
when I was photographing the Black Lives Matter, my husband was telling me, you got to stop. I said, I can't stop.
Yeah.
I remember the last time was going to Baton Rouge. I said, I have to go. He says, no. But I got in the car and he came with me. And we went to New Orleans and we got to the hotel. I left my camera bag on the bed and ran out and went to Baton Rouge without him, okay? So the reason why I'm saying that, I didn't realize how I was stressed out. I was like an engine. You know, I kept running. But when COVID came, that's when I felt it and I said, I gotta do something different. And then when the Washington Post called me, it's the land right now. To go out and just be connected to the environment and the land to ground me, that's where I spend a lot of my time now.
Any other questions for Sheila? Sheila, thank you.
Oh, thank you
It's
for
really
having
incredible.
me. Yeah.
Such a pleasure to talk with you about your
But
work.
remember
and
the
see it.
archive,
Yes.
okay, everybody, because that's what you're doing.
Archive your work, organize it, tag it. I don't know what you do. I'm not very proud of my organization.
Well, mine wasn't proud until they started telling me.
You
And
had
I'm
to
like,
do
I
it,
have
yeah.
all this stuff, okay?
You had to go through it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you tell
find their way?
Good question.
From my experiences, like I was telling you, is like I went to school. When I came out of school, you're like in this world all
What
alone.
now? Yeah,
what
yeah.
now? But what I concentrated on, and I know we need to make money, but what I concentrated on was doing the work. That's so important, is doing the work. And if you can, I know this may sound kind of whatever, but if you can enter in some of these like lens culture, what is it, those award things that you have? And I know sometimes they ask for money, and I don't think that's good. But one thing about it, you don't know who's looking at your work. And if you didn't get it this time, they have it in their heads. I'll never forget when a curator told me, this is when I first started out, and it was Suburbia. And she told me this, and it stayed with me. She says, even if I don't do anything with you now, she said, I might do something with you in the future, okay? And I think that's so important, is to keep the work out there. And this is, I'm probably with Instagram and stuff, is so flooded with a lot of stuff, but that is a platform that we go to.
Yeah.
If you're a photographer, I would start curating my stuff on your website, just not stuff over here, and over there, because editors and curators look at that. And I've had people, and I don't put that much on my Instagram anymore, I guess because people kind of know me, but that's some of their go-to of asking. And everybody, when it comes to photography, is a lot more photographers now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's a photographer. Yep. You have to how is your work going to stand out versus somebody else's work? People show me fashion stuff all the time. It's good, but it doesn't stick with me, okay? And don't whack your brain with it. I think do your work, experiment, and go from there.
That's such great advice. Yeah, no one can make the pictures that you're going to make.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever that is. So you trying to be what you think the editors want to be, or make what they want to see, it's just you're going to be going in circles, right? You'd have to. It's really hard. You have to do whatever comes naturally to you and what you want to do, because no one else can do that. No one else has those ideas. It doesn't have to be these amazing, groundbreaking, revolutionary, like photo project or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I think the advice of continually putting it out there, because it's pretty lonely. It can be really lonely out there.
It's real lonely out there.
There's a lot of not responses. There's a lot of, if you're lucky, you get a no. Usually it's nothing, right? But it doesn't mean
You'll get
people-
more no's than you're going to get yeses.
Yeah.
And that'll give you a tough skin, because I know I had a hard time in school a lot. And I didn't argue with my professors. I just said in my mind, I'm going to show you. And I did the work. And at the end, they said, well, we were hard on you because we know you was going to be somebody. I'm like, It was hard, okay? So it's a lonely world out there. And it's still alone. I feel like even though I have all this stuff, I still feel like I'm on an island by myself, you know? Because, I don't know, it's just, you know, and a lot of the work that I do is informed in the South, okay? But a lot of what I show is outside of the South. It's not in galleries and museums and stuff like that. So I just keep doing the work. I know it's hard, but keep doing the work. That's the most important thing, is the work.
And that's why we have events like this and APA's events.
Right.
Yeah, so when you got your decided after some years to be MFA, do you think that how much of that do you think will pave the way to where you are today, and was that a necessary step to become where you are now first?
For me, it was. Because when I started, a picture was just a picture. Oh, that's a cool picture. Right. So when I went into grad school, it made me understand it's much more than that. There's layers of that you can talk about that you could show in the photograph. And what it's about, they drilled the concept with me. It's like with the Barbie dolls, you know. That work now, I did that 20 years ago. People cannot believe that I did that 20 years ago, okay? And now who's taken hold of this is the LGBT community, okay? So, and it's being framed a different way. I call this plastic bodies, and back then I was saying that we have become plastic and the Barbie has become human. And you could take that to another level because look at our world today. We don't know what's real and not real anymore, to be honest with you.
Would you say, I'm also curious about the connections that you formed through MFA program and fellowships out there afterward. Do you think that part, like how did...
I'm trying to think back. When I was getting my MFA, like, I know the teachers came to us about doing some type of program, and we all had to submit, and I won, okay? And I think that was at Georgia State, so I don't know about other programs like at Harvard and stuff. I think it might, and I don't know how it is now, but I think, like when I came out of school, I was like all alone, you know, that kind of thing. But I did win a lot of stuff when I was in school. It was coming to me, and partly it was Deb Willis. She's my mentor to this day, and she's very well known. So I think school helped me to understand how to talk about my work, okay? About the concept. This is just not a photograph of a black male just standing there, because when I reflect back on what I shot with the hip hop, you know what I'm reflecting on now? It was all about my father, because I didn't understand my father and what he was going through. And that's why I went into that community trying to understand really the black male. It wasn't really about hip hop, but it's coming to me now. I don't know if you understand that. But the MFA really helped me understand, because I wasn't doing research. Didn't you ask me who was my favorite photographer? I wasn't looking at other photographers. The only person that I knew was Gordon Parks. I didn't know about anybody else, and that was it. And so it opened up a new world for me.
Very cool.
Do you have a secret private project that will start on that?
I don't know. I got a lot of stuff that people have not seen, okay, that I've
Unreleased
done.
album you're just gonna put out?
I was thinking about doing, I'm on Substack, and I'm trying to go through that, and maybe I'll start putting out zine books of all of my work and do it that way. Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
Any others? No? Sheila, thank you.
Well,
Again,
thank you, Raymond.
this was amazing.
And thanks, Atlanta Photo Night.
So the next one, our next event is April, sorry, we're way past April, August 14th. Same place here. Chris Aluka-Berry just came out with a book this year called Afrolachia. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be here sharing that work and have books, and we'll sign it for you too. You can follow us on Instagram and I guess Facebook, unfortunately, is probably the best way to keep track of what we're doing. We may have a special event coming up this summer. Stay tuned. Please follow Sheila's amazing work. If this was the first time you'd heard about her tonight, then there's a lot to dig into on her site. There's some really great stories and even some writings and some poetry. And yeah, we're lucky to have you here in Atlanta, so don't
Because I
leave.
started writing poetry. I never done that before. I've never done that.
There you go.
You know, I'm gonna just tell you this little story. I was photographing with Black Lives Matter, and then when John Lewis passed, I went to, you know, off of Auburn Street, that mural
big
that
mural,
it has, and they had all the memorial stuff there. I cried, so I made a song called I Cried, okay? So I don't know, it's just taken me, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but it's taken me in different realms. It's really, I guess I'm pushing to do something, because I get bored real fast, okay? And that photograph is very still photograph, so I get bored. So I'm trying to challenge myself a lot. And I think that's a good thing, you know, for everybody to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all. Good night.